Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. It's your host, Matt Zahab. We are buzzing as always. And folks, this is the last episode while recording in beautiful Mexico. It's been a great rip. Next time you see me on this show, I will be back in Toronto, back in the studio, and pretty pumped, but also it's going to be a sad day leaving Mexico. The palm trees, the sun, the ocean, you name it. It's been a good rip, but back to Toronto life, baby. Today we have an incredible guest popping on. We have Nikolaj Rosenthal, the co-founder and CEO of Myrmidon, the non-custodial staking provider, which is absolutely blowing up right now. Folks, this is his second round on the show. And this one hit a little closer to my heart as we shared the love for hockey. However, he was way better hockey player than me and was a pro hockey player for 10 years and was the first athlete, not just hockey player, but the first athlete in the world to accept Bitcoin as salary back in 2017. He was also the CEO of cryptocurrency exchange Evonox.com, has been involved with crypto since late 2016 and is still an investor and entrepreneur. He also went to Copenhagen Business School, which was probably just an absolute treat of a time, and has a business admin and service management degree, as well as an organizational innovation and entrepreneurship degree. Nick, pumped to have you on, my friend. Welcome back for round two. How you doing?
Hey, Matt. It's good to be here again, and thanks for the sum up of my life. I think you did a better job than I could actually ever do. So thank you for that. I'm really excited to be here again, talk to you.
Pumped to have you on. I can't remember last time you were still playing when you came on back in 2021, weren't you?
Oh yeah, I was still playing. We actually won the championship that year for the second time in a row. And we, I remember we talked about my Bitcoin salary. I was still playing, and then I finished my career just shy of a year the season after, I think. So retired hockey player today, but was still playing back when we talked last time.
That's wild. Look, folks, obviously this is a crypto show, but we are going to have a little hockey talk here. Nick had depending on how you want to look at it, the pleasure, the burden, don't know the correct word, but running a cryptocurrency exchange and being a pro hockey player. I mean, for the folks at home, being a pro hockey player is a full-time job. You got a nutrition on point, workouts on point. It's not just go play hockey and get out of there and, go spend time with the wife and the kids at home. This is a full-time job. And then you had another full-time job on top of that. I'd love if you can get into that, but also talk to me about life after retirement. I have a couple friends who, heck, I'm 29 years old and I have a couple friends who played in the NHL and who are already out of the NHL. This is the National Hockey League. This is the best hockey league in the whole world. And they're struggling. They don't know what to do with themselves because their whole lives from the age of, 6, 7 years old, it was hockey, hockey, hockey. They ate, they breathed, and they slept hockey. And now they don't know what the fuck to do with themselves. So, I mean, again, you obviously were running the crypto exchange. Now you're doing the whole staking thing. The transition was probably a little easier for you, but I'd love if you could go into sort of the transition from, being a pro hockey player to now being a businessman and, of course, a father and a husband. Yeah,
no, that's a really good question. And it's definitely something that I also, I see that pattern over here as well. I think there's a big difference between being a pro hockey player in the US or Canada, making it to the NHL. Because the money there is it's in a bigger scale. It's a different league. Yeah. So if you're a pro hockey player in Europe, you can make a pretty good living for yourself, but it's hard to make enough money for you to retire and then do nothing.
Yeah.
Do nothing after.
You still got to grind.
You still have to work, right? You still have to grind after. And I think spending my early 20s in the US, I played in the juniors hockey there in Bismarck, kind of opened my eyes to a life where I had to do something else than just playing hockey.
Right.
I knew that making it to the show was going to be really hard. I wasn't that gifted as a hockey player. I always worked hard towards my success. I wasn't the most skilled or talented player, but I certainly had a really good career in terms of my skill level. But I knew from after being in the US for a couple of years, returning back home to Europe, play pro hockey, that I had to do something else on the side. So once my career would end at some point, I knew that I had to have something that could take over from me being a pro hockey player.
Yeah.
So that's why I actually got involved in, first of all, the Copenhagen Business School program. to get myself a degree. And then through my business degree at Copenhagen Business School, I just, I got involved in crypto. And it's been, deep down the rabbit hole ever since 2016. Yeah. And that's why I ended up making my career in crypto there, which also was why I got involved with Bitcoin Swiss and Nikolaj Rosenthal, the famous Danish entrepreneur, Bitcoin entrepreneur, who founded Bitcoin Swiss back in the days, 2013. And it was through him that I got involved in Bitcoin and ultimately led to the Bitcoin salary contract that we made in 2017. To me, I always knew, as I said, that I wanted to have something else that could take over. And that's why I started getting involved professionally with crypto, because I knew I had to work in this space also after I quitted hockey. And here I am today, 2 years after retirement. I'm still working in crypto and, having my pro life here. But as you said, I can definitely recognize that pattern from people who quit hockey and then don't know what to do after, because it's your identity.
Yeah,
you create yourself an identity of being a pro hockey player, and that's pretty much what people know you for. So I have a bunch of friends in Europe who quitted hockey and still struggling to find the next sort of career, trying to take a degree or get a job here and there, and not really knowing what they're doing, to be honest. So it's hard.
It's so tough because, and there's also there's the quantitative side, which I'll sort of throw more into the bucket of what to do financially speaking, what to do with your career. But then there's the qualitative side where I only played hockey till I was 18. Unfortunately, I had a couple of injuries and I was like, all right, it's time for me to go get a degree, went to school. But you miss that camaraderie with the boys so much. You're with a group of 20 lads who become not and it's going to sound cheesy, but they're not your friends. They're your family. You guys do everything
Absolutely.
together.
No, for sure.
You're spending full days, you're traveling, everything about their lives, the ups, the downs, the everything. And then you miss that. And then you go into the business world and there's not that kind of camaraderie in the business world. It's just not the same.
I mean, quite the opposite, right? You're fighting against, pretty much, everyone in the space, right? But I think for me, when I quitted hockey, I was really keen to find another team that I could play for, but on a completely different level.
Yeah.
So once I was living in Switzerland, I very quickly found a boys or old men's league, beer league, to join, and actually ended up playing against Peter Forsberg, who lives in Zug, and a bunch of other Swiss national A players who was playing this league. So all of a sudden, I found myself playing against Peter Forsberg and all these legends from the show.
Is he still nasty? Is he still disgusting?
I mean, he can really move, but you just can't take the puck away from him because he's so strong, he's so skilled, right? So you can, I could run around him and just get exhausted by trying to take away the puck from him, but just can't because he's so skilled. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. And the same here, I moved back to Copenhagen last year, and we've been very fortunate to collect a group of guys that I played with all throughout the years, and we still play actually every Wednesday. So I'm actually going to practice tonight, and that's 25 boys who's been playing against each other and with each other for the last 10-15 years, who's still getting together once a week just to get that camaraderie and also just to still play some hockey. So that happens once a week, and that's really important because that's when you're done playing hockey, that's probably the number one thing you miss the most is actually the locker room, the boys.
Yeah. I love it. What a way to start. You're giving me goosebumps here. I miss this shit. One last hockey question, then we'll get into we'll get into ETH, we'll get into the staking, we'll get into all the crypto stuff here. But when you were playing back in 2017, and I mean, heck, that's clearly been a great financial decision on your end, accepting salary as Bitcoin. Hopefully you held on to those beautiful orange little coins. What were the boys saying on the team? Were they like, Nick, you're out to lunch, you're crazy? Did you orange pill any of them? Did you get them into crypto? Walk me through all that.
Well, I definitely orange pilled a couple of boys, that's for sure. But 17, it's already 7 years ago. So it's
that was early.
I feel
that
like
was way back.
yeah, but at the same time, I was looking at some of the people that I was talking to in the space who were in 15 or in 13. So I think it's always that, that when you're in 17, you always look at the boys or girls getting in 15 and 13 and even, in 2009 and 10, right? And thinking, oh, they were early, right? But today, 7 years later, this asset class is finally getting, some more attention. People are definitely looking at me and say, oh, he was in early, right? And accepting Bitcoin salary in 17 was the most crazy thing you could do, especially in Denmark and I think in Europe, because Bitcoin was just making, the first headlines in the news media, right? After this, you can say this, it wasn't the first bull run at all, but it was the first mainstream bull run where Bitcoin and Ethereum really got attention from medias, right? So I think, that was really the start of the trend I could see, because today I think there's multiple athletes taking their salary in Bitcoin, even in the NFL and other big leagues. So yeah, it's kind of fun to look back at 7 years ago, taking your salary in Bitcoin and then, start a trend.
Yeah, you must have got some wild looks there. Let's jump into the crypto stuff here. You guys at Myrmidon are a non-custodial staking provider, and I'd love to get into that in a couple minutes. But until then, you guys obviously specialize in ETH. ETH is still sort of the most common, staked crypto, obviously with ETH and of course all of its L2s. On top of that, the EVM is still just a monstrous machine and ecosystem, which allows just a multitude of different staking solutions. And it really allows people to print money. Of course, we have Athena as well that's been popping off. I mean, the coin came out yesterday, folks. This episode will air mid-April, early to mid-April. We're recording on Wednesday the 3rd, but Athena the coin came out on Tuesday the 2nd and hit a $10 billion market cap. And mind you, yesterday was also a day where everything across the board was down between like 8 and 12%. So staking is here. That EUSD is absolutely insane. We can get into that as well. But what's going on with ETH right now, Nick? Because I used to be a big ETH guy. I've been dabbling in shitcoins myself. It's been a lot of fun. It's been way too much fun, actually. This sort of reminds me of good and bad in good and bad ways, but it reminds me of NFTs back in 2021, back when you and I were speaking the first time around, where a lot of money was being printed and the fun was just incredible. Gambling on JPEGs, it was absolutely electric, more fun than sports betting. And present day meme coin mania is just infinitely more fun than sports betting as well. The culture, it's just incredible. But ETH as a whole, ETH's been getting hammered. The narrative around ETH is candidly no bueno right now. You're still trying to make a transaction. It costs you $100 even after the upgrade. You're an ETH guy. Give us the goods. What's going on with ETH right now?
Yeah, so you summed it up pretty well, I would say. Like, look, I think today Ethereum is still the biggest L1 chain out there. We have a couple of L1s still trying to compete with ETH. Solana, Avalanche, even Cardano still trying to keep up with Ethereum. But bottom line is that Ethereum is still the one to beat, in my view. Since last time we spoke in 2021, a lot of things has happened with Ethereum. The Beaconchain went live in, was that December 2021 or 20? I think it was in 20. Yep. Since then, we had the London fork. Sorry, it was in 20. London fork in August 21. We had the merge. Since then, Shanghai, Capella, and now the DenCun hard fork. So a lot of upgrade on Ethereum. Everything has went smoothly on Ethereum. So I think the narrative around Ethereum right now is bearish. I don't understand why, to be honest. I think if you look at the recent upgrade DenCun, you reduced the cost significantly on L2s. And people were expecting that fees were dropping on Ethereum, which was never the intention of the upgrade. This was purely to allow proof-of-stake sharding blobs, as we know it, to reduce cost on layer 2 building on Ethereum, right? So as you said, Ethereum is getting a lot of shit right now. But if you look at history, it's been no different to the history in terms of where we are right now. ETH getting hammered, Bitcoin taking off primarily because of the whole ETF thing, I would say. Let's see what happens with the ETH ETF. Personally, I don't really care about the ETF. I think it's great for adoption. It's definitely a narrative that people can buy into. But long term, ETH ETF or not, it doesn't really matter for the adoption of ETH because I can't really see a competitor to ETH as it is right now.
So you don't, that's, I mean, I like the hot take there. The ETH ETF, you're like, c'est la vie, don't really care about it.
Yeah, I think, just with Bitcoin ETF, it's a great product for the average person out there, but crypto was invented to, self-custody your coins and your assets, right? And the Bitcoin ETF is not really a product where you can custody your own Bitcoins, right? It's just an easier way to get involved and get exposure to the asset class, which I think is great because we all know that you can't have a world where all people self-custody their own assets.
Right.
Some people have different routines and choices of how they want to take care of their assets. And for most people, it's just way easier to log into an account and just have some numbers on the screen.
Yeah.
But for me, the underlying asset and owning the underlying asset is really what matters. And that's also why we at Myrmidon have made this non-custodial solution, Ethereum staking dashboard, where you can self-custody your ETH, but securely stake your ETH with us. So we never take away your keys. You can easily stake your ETH using our dashboard, but we'll never take away your keys. You can get that yield that you get.
So if I understand this correctly, Myrmidon is like a staking as a service provider almost, where you guys give your clients and customers the ability to stake their ETH to receive yield, but unlike most traditional staking providers where they actually take the ETH, they create a bigger yield than you are receiving on your ETH. You guys aren't doing that. You guys are the ETH stays with them.
Yeah, so Ethereum staking is a little different to what we know from all other proof of stake blockchains. Like most proof of stake blockchains use delegation, like Solana or Cardano as an example, where you can delegate your ADA tokens or SOL tokens to the staking provider. But Ethereum doesn't work with delegation. So if you want to stake your ETH, you actually have to make a transaction to the Beaconchain, which is the underlying smart contract for the Ethereum staking. So the Beaconchain is the Ethereum staking chain, if you can say that. And you actually, what you do is that you make a transaction to the Beaconchain with a set of data points. So the Beaconchain knows this is your ETH. So if you want to get your ETH back, you have to send the correct data to unlock your ETH and get it back. And it's a very complicated process. And this is why most people don't understand how ETH staking is working and why they choose to stake their ETH on centralized exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken or FTX, for example. But you have the risk right there. You're going to have to talk about the risk in terms of that because we all know what happened there. But it's easier for most people just to log in, as I said before, to have your ETH, lying on the exchange and stake it there. But our vision was to enable people to hold their own ETH and stake it while not giving up ownership of their ETH.
Gotcha.
So we created this dashboard where you can log in or connect your wallet, and then you can stake your ETH. And then you have a dashboard where you can see the performance of the validators, and you can also easily exit the staking position and get the ETH right back to your wallet.
Interesting. So super easy.
We're trying to make a friendly UI for ETH staking, which is not very UI friendly. That's basically what we did. You can say the downside of using our service is that we have to support native ETH staking, which means 32 ETH per validator. So if you want to stake with Myrmidon, you have to own at least 32 ETH because that's what requires to spin up one validator.
Right, which is about give or take 100 racks right now.
Yeah, 100 grand right now. Yeah. But for us, it was really important. We've been looking at competitors in the space and saying, okay, how can we differ in this space if we want to attack the Ethereum staking industry? And as of yet, we haven't found one single provider who can safely say that they are truly non-custodial staking providers. Because if you use other exchanges or other services, they don't provide you the backup phrase for your validators. So if something happens with this provider, your ETH is gone forever. But with Myrmidon, you have the backup to all your validators and you have the ability to exit from a dashboard, but you also have the ability just to take your backup phrase and spin up your own node and get your ETH back. So if something happens to Myrmidon, your ETH are not gone because you backed up your validators. So that's what we did. And that's why I think I can safely say that as of today, we are the most truly non-custodial decentralized staking provider on Ethereum.
I love that. Nick, you're on a roll here. We got to take a quick break though, my friend.
Yeah.
And give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show, that is Prime XBT. And when we get back, we are going to keep buzzing on staking and Ethereum, some DBT, distributed validator tech, and of course, the 4 different types of staking, realistically, solo home staking, staking as a service, pooled staking, and centralized staking. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends of cryptonews.com and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News podcast. We love Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promotion for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. Again, that is CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Nick. Nick, let's keep buzzing on staking for a sec. Your team sent over a lovely little cheat sheet. And I mean, I always learn something when the guests come on, but I knew there was different types of staking, but really putting them in sort of 4 different groups, if you will.
Categories.
Categories and groups. It was really interesting to see because I don't think I've ever sort of categorized them like this. I'd love if you could go over them. And the 4 are solo home staking, staking as a service, pooled staking, and centralized staking. Everyone is pretty, aware of what centralized staking is, but the other 3, very unique. And I'd love if you could sort of just rep through them and give us the pros and cons of each.
Absolutely. So I think, we can take the first one, solo home staking. You can actually categorize them in what is the most decentralized versus what's the most centralized way of staking. And hereby also what's the easiest and what's the hardest, to be honest. So the most decentralized, but also the hardest, is solo home staking. And essentially that means that you are able to spin up a Ethereum node and run a execution client and consensus client on the Ethereum blockchain and do the staking from home solo.
Is this what requires 32 ETH?
That requires 32 ETH, yeah.
Gotcha.
Because you stake natively ETH directly to the Beaconchain, and that requires 32 ETH to run one validator.
Jeez Louise.
So that comes in bunches of 32. So if you want to have 2 validators, you have to have 64, 3 validators, 96, and so on.
Gotcha.
So that's the hardest way, but it's also the most rewarding way to do it.
Right.
And most decentralized way. So if you can do that, good for you. It requires a lot. You have to, keep up with upgrades all the time. You have to have a stable internet connection, and you really have to know what to do. So it's the hardest, but it's also the most decentralized. Option B is staking as a service, and Myrmidon falls into the group of staking as a service. This is a way of owning ETH, 32 ETH again, and then choosing a staking as a service like Myrmidon or other competitors who offer non-custodial staking service. It's a very decentralized way to stake your ETH. It's not easy. You still have to know what to do. You still have to be able to operate wallets. You have to self-custody 32 ETH, which can be scary for some people.
Yep.
But I would say besides solo home staking, this is probably the most decentralized and best way you can stake your ETH if you know how to operate and self-custody your own ETH. If you know how to work a wallet, you can choose option B. Option C is pooled staking. That's basically Lido or Rocket Pool. Lido, the most famous one. Also, I would say the biggest share of Ethereum staking, and it doesn't require 32 ETH. I think it actually only requires 0.1 ETH to get going. The biggest problem with pool staking is that you have an additional layer of risk, smart contract risk, because you integrate with Lido's smart contract. You also have the centralization risk that has been an ongoing discussion on Twitter, at least, and also other forums, that Lido has become too big of a player in the Ethereum staking industry, taking more than 32% share of the entire staking network. They have gotten a lot of shit from that, but Lido is a great option because it's easy, doesn't require you 32 ETH to stake. So I understand why Lido has gotten so much success as a Ethereum staking service. But you have the additional risk there of the smart contract risk, but also of contributing to more centralized Ethereum staking. And then we have the last option, which is centralized staking, which is basically send your ETH to Coinbase or Kraken or any SEX and stake your ETH there. And it's easy. It doesn't require you 32 ETH, but we know what happened with FTX. You have the centralization risk that this certain exchange becomes too big, and you also just rely on that exchange to take care of your assets. And to people like me, that's not a very nice thought. It's actually a pretty scary thought that other people are in charge of your assets. But again, it's the easiest way.
Yeah, but it's wild though, because it's the easiest, but it's also the lowest yield of the four, you know?
Definitely the lowest yield. If you use a staking as a service like Myrmidon, you will get all base rewards. So there's like 3 rewards structure in on Ethereum when you operate a staking operation. The first, you can have base rewards, which is issuance, new ETH, or you can say base rewards is that every block, which comes every 8 or 9 days, those base rewards goes directly to the validator. And then you have something called tips, which is if you want to make a transaction on Ethereum and you want to speed up the transaction, you can actually tip that transaction so it goes faster on the chain.
Yeah,
so you kind of skip. So you skip the line, right? And then you have something called mu, which is maximum extractable value, which is actually just it's an arbitrage. You can buy another block from another proposer to be allowed to propose this block. So you pay another block proposer to be able to propose this block, and then you get the rewards in that block. So that's something called mu, and you have to be able to run a mu software, special mu software, to be able to unlock those rewards. So those are, and then the fourth structure is the burn, which you can say is also a attribute to the Ethereum ecosystem. Since the London hard fork was introduced, a certain amount of ETH is burned every transaction. Yeah. And that goes directly to ETH holders, because less ETH is actually coming into issuance. That's why you have ETH as a deflationary asset right now. So the more transactions on the network, the more ETH, the more burned ETH will happen. And that's why right now we see that ETH is a deflationary asset, and that goes directly to ETH holders.
I love that. Great explanation there. You guys obviously don't just do ETH. Everyone's aware of ETH. It's a trendy topic right now. That's why we talked about it so much. I know that's your bread and butter, but you guys also have other chains and coins and ecosystems that you work with. I believe you said Cardano is about to pop off as well. What other options?
Yeah, we just launched Cardano actually today.
Nice.
So we're live with the Cardano. We are also live with actually a Danish founded blockchain called Concordium.
Yep.
We run the largest pool as a third party provider for that ecosystem. We run the largest pool for Concordium. So those are the 3 chains networks right now that we support. We've been focusing a lot on ETH, so that's why we haven't really focused on other networks as of yet. But as I said, today we went live on Cardano. You can go check it out on myrmidonstaking.com, and you can delegate your ETH tokens to our pool as of today. So that's great.
That's huge. Yeah, shout out Concordium as well. We had Lars on the show.
Exactly.
He's been on twice.
Yeah, you know him.
He's a baller, man. That guy is he's an absolute baller. Like,
it's an interesting project, right? It's definitely trying to do something else in the space. Lars is, obviously coming from the banking sector, working there, founded Saxo Bank, which is a huge corporation today. He's very keen on the whole compliant and ID KYC based things on blockchain, and think there is a certain product placement fit there in the industry. So he's working hard to promote that chain, and we're happy to support that project. It's a Danish founded project, as I said, pretty international today with branches in Switzerland and other places in the world. So we're happy to also be a partner in that project.
It's crazy. I know we're going a little off topic here talking about Concordium, but one of the things he mentioned on the show, and just fortifying your point about the blockchain-based KYC and ID system, there's a continent in our world, Africa, that has, I think, like close to 1 billion people. I should know this, but there's definitely
sounds about right.
On the high end of hundreds of millions of people, and like more than half of them don't have bank accounts. Like it just seems like a huge market that needs to be tapped. And again, with the corruption in that continent, without something immutable like the blockchain, you really can't move that needle and can't make that happen. So super cool. But back to Myrmidon for a sec. Anything else before we wrap up here, mate? Anything else you guys are popping off? Any news to look forward to over the next couple months?
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely check our website because we're going to pop up new networks over the course of 2024 here, focusing right now on, getting Cardano off to a great start. But we just put in a fourth network that we are expected to go live this summer, depending on when they launch. It's a network called Fleek. Haven't launched yet, as I said, but we're expecting hopefully Q3 to be a major part in that project as well. So our approach is that we want to have customers on chains before we actually launch it. So we don't launch any chains before we have customers on the chain, just because it doesn't make sense for us to run 10 different networks. It requires a lot to first of all run the software. We host everything in the house here as well. We don't rely on any third party like Amazon or Google Cloud or anything else. Everything is completely hosted here, and we also have a security layer of a second server setup 30 kilometers away from where we sit. So if something happens here, very quickly things shifts over to take over here. It's on a completely different energy grid. So if something happens here locally, it will just fire up over there, and we keep busting, which is really important when when we provide a service as a staking, because downtime means slashing, and slashing is not good for customers because they lose money.
Well said.
So yeah, just focusing on Ethereum as our main product. We think we've created this dashboard, and we see a lot of hype for it. To be honest, we just launched it like a couple of months ago, and things are going well. So it's exciting, great times, exciting markets, I would say too.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
To me, it's things came pretty early. I wasn't expecting Bitcoin all-time highs before halving. So we're really excited for the future, and let's see what happens.
Love it. Nick, what an episode. Appreciate you coming on as always. 2 more questions before we let you go. Who's winning the cup this year? Again, folks, this episode is going to air mid-April. Got about 6 or 7 teams that could win it. Who's winning the Stanley Cup?
I really want to see Connor McDavid win the trophy at some point.
Yeah.
Is it going to be this year? I don't know, man. I think there's definitely a chance, right? I think they're up there in the playoffs, close to make the playoffs soon. But I gotta say, Boston look pretty good again this year. They do. I want to say Edmonton, but I'm not. But I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. Who do you got,
man? You gotta have big puck moving D to win the cup. Edmonton, they got like Bouchard. They don't, they have Ekholm now, but they don't have a whole lot of other people. I don't know. I think it's going to be Colorado.
Yeah, they're up there pretty good. What about the Rangers? They're doing a season of,
this
is a pretty good season for them. But I just don't see them win the cup, to be honest.
I agree. I think it's going to be Colorado. I think Nate, McCarr, Rantanen, and the rest of those guys, I think they've sort of taken the Crosby route where they're understanding to like not go 110% in the season, rest up. Yeah. It's like the LeBron mantra where it's like just get to the playoffs. Make sure that you're in. Don't kill yourself in the regular season. Get to the playoffs. So it's going to be fun though. It's one of the best times of the year. You have Masters golf next weekend. You have Formula One, you have European football, you have basketball playoffs. I mean, I'm not a big baseball guy, but baseball starting, NHL playoffs. The sort of April, May, June might be the best time in all of sports. So
summer is coming as well, right? So
good shit. But I really appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, can you please let our listeners know where they can find you personally, and of course Myrmidon online and on socials?
Yeah, so I'm actually not a big personal my Twitter. I don't have a personal Twitter, so it's at Myrmidon Staking on Twitter, on X, I should say. Myrmidon Staking on LinkedIn as well. That's mostly for our institutional clients to find us there to keep updated there. But then X is where we do all our posts, and then myrmidonstaking.com is where you can find our platform, our ETH dashboard. This is where you can delegate your ADA tokens and Concordium tokens. Those would be the places.
Those are the spots. Nick, appreciate it, my man. Great to have you on again, and can't wait for round 3.
Yeah, me too. Take care.
Folks, what an episode with Nikolaj Rosenthal, co-founder and CEO of Myrmidon, the non-custodial staking provider. Always great having him on the show. Such a cool story of being the first athlete ever to accept Bitcoin as salary in 2017. We talked about everything ETH related, staking as a service, non-custodial staking, ETH ETF, and of course, everything else. Huge shout out to both of our teams for making this happen. To listeners, if you loved this episode, and I hope you did, please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. And speaking of the team, love you guys. Thank you for all your work. As always, Eustace, you are the man. And back to the listeners, keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Bye for now, and we'll see you guys next episode.